About 15 years ago, I was interviewed on a show called The Big Idea with Donnie Deutsch. We talked about how I creatively financed my first invention, the French twister, and ultimately licensed it to Scuncy, where it went on to do about $20 million in sales. I was recently reminded that he talked about my story in his book, where he focused on the fact that I made a prototype and small inventory to test before licensing. If you'd like to learn more about the book or see the episode that I was on, you'll find that information in the description below. But today I'd like to unpack how to strategically spend less on models and prototypes and why it's so important. Hi, Lisa Lloyd here with more tips, tricks, and strategies to optimize and accelerate your invention licensing success. If you like this video, please smash those like and subscribe buttons. It's a free way to support me. And when you hit the notification bell, you'll be the first to know when I've posted a new video each and every week. It goes without saying that research and development is a critical part of inventing, but unfortunately, the ugly truth is that most inventors spend more money and time patenting and licensing than they do on the front end of their innovations. This results most often in failure, and I truly believe if you take the time to flesh out the absolute best mode for your new idea, it will 10x your success. And I say this because in my first 7 years in business, I successfully licensed 7 products with a 100% success rate. That was only possible because I created products with that magical wow factor. And how did I get to wow? Research and development. By the time I took those products to prospective licensees, the wow was obvious and they had to license. In fact, licensing is not hard when you can get a company to say, wow, we have to have that. I recently did a tutorial on how to make fast and even free prototypes, and you can catch that here or in the description below. But today I'd like to teach you more about how to research and develop your way to wow. And it begins with understanding that wow is very unlikely to appear finished in your head. It's usually the problem that we see clearly, but the solution is relatively vague in our heads. So we must flush out the best possible way to solve that problem, and I can think of no better way to do that than to build it. You've probably heard the phrase unknown unknowns. In fact, it was widely quoted by Donald Rumsfeld back in 2002 while giving a press conference about Iraq when he said, "There are known knowns, there are things that we know we know. We also know that there are known unknowns. This is to say, we know there are some things that we know we don't know. But there are also unknown unknowns, the ones that we don't know, we don't know." The known knowns and known unknowns are relatively easy to navigate, but it's those unknown unknowns that are silent killers of innovation. This is why it's so important to save as much time and money as possible on R&D. You have no idea what you don't know that will require more money and more time. So save as much as you can on what you do so that you have the margin when you need it for those surprises when they come up, and they will come up. Otherwise, you run the risk of running out of runway before you even take flight with your invention. When you are creatively thrifty, you give yourself the margin to continue to iterate on the idea as you learn more about what it will take to make the most simple and elegant solution for your invention, your wow solution. And it all begins with setting the expectation that your current understanding of what the product should be, how it will work, and what people want most from it will change with thorough R&D. There will likely be many iterations on your product. The goal is to get to a minimum viable product. It's not to have an idea that you make or hire someone to make a perfect prototype with. That may come later. But in the beginning, it's to flush out the idea in your head. In fact, when you first have an idea and are researching the competition, the goal is to understand what meaningful changes can be made that will dramatically improve the user's experience. If I were to ask what's meaningfully different about your product over all of the competition, could you tell me quickly in just a few sentences? If you can't, then you probably didn't perform thorough R&D. If you can, let me know the meaningful difference in your invention in the comments below. This is called your value proposition, and it is a core principle baked into your sell sheet and licensing and everything else that you do to go to market. Do you think big companies just build the first idea that pops into someone's head? Of course not. Sometimes they go through dozens of iterations and research to determine the viability before spending millions making and selling it. So understanding that there are unknown unknowns Take the time and invest in building a model thoroughly to flesh out your ideas. Understand that the first person you need to prove the idea to is you, but there's just no excuse not to do this. No matter what your skill level is, most products can be rigged together in some form to think through all of the possible ways to solve that problem. I promise. When making models, use alternative materials off the shelf that you can Frankenstein together to test your theory for little or no money. And if you need help, book a free strategy call with me. I'd be happy to walk you through some creative ways to test your ideas with quick working models. Also, keep in mind that you are a creator. You are literally creating something from nothing, and there will always be a learning curve. I don't care how much you think you already know, so leave margin for error. Expect that printed parts and custom materials often don't come as you expected on the first pass, and you will most likely need to make revisions. Just don't worry about making the perfect prototype. In fact, I can tell you from experience consulting for decades, if you think you need a perfect prototype to get licensed, chances are you'll get stuck and won't move forward. And in that case, you sabotage your own success. Instead, build something that inspires you so that you can confidently move forward with the idea. Think about it. You are building something from your imagination, and it's an amazing feeling. For me, it's worth more than my paychecks. In fact, studies show that dopamine is released during creativity, which reduces anxiety, depression, stress, and can even help you process trauma. So tap into your creativity to find cheap and easy ways to truly invent something that gets companies to say, wow, I have to have that. And remember this, you don't need to know everything to get started. You just need to know enough to take the first step in front of you. Then let that step teach you what to do next, and each step will unpack the next. And all that creativity will actually improve your mental health and set you on the path for success at the same time. If you'd like to learn more, please check out my free 1-hour course at theinventionaccelerator.com or book a free call with me. Don't forget to leave your comments below and hit those like and subscribe buttons to support me doing this. Dare to dream and imagine what's possible when powered by innovation.